Mr. President.
Republican leader.
For 2.5 months, the Republicans have provided a clear and consistent roadmap for Democratic government to raise the debt ceiling. Democrats have had 2.5 months' notice to use the fast-track party line reconciliation process, which they have already used happily this year and already intend to use once again. But the Democrats who run Washington have done nothing. They've squandered week after week after week. The Senate's been voting on mid-level nominations. 2.5 months later, our colleagues complain that time is running out to do their job. They are frantically asking our side for shortcuts. Now, in the past 2 days, I've had the surreal experience of watching both the President of the United States and the Senate Majority Leader be asked about the future of the U.S. economy. Their respective responses were, quote, "That's up to Mitch McConnell," or "Ask Mitch McConnell." Well, what about the third Democratic leader, the Speaker of the House? Well, she's headed to Europe, headed off to Europe. I can only presume she hopes the full faith and credit of the United States will get sorted out without her. That is the level of leadership and accountability the country is getting from the Washington Democrats who run the country. These are the leadership skills of people who spent 2.5 months doing nothing and then complain they're short on time. That is the attitude that has gotten Democrats a self-created inflation crisis, border crisis, Afghanistan crisis, and free-falling favorability with the American people. Now, it's not clear whether the Democratic leaders have wasted 2.5 months because they simply cannot govern, or whether they are intentionally playing Russian roulette with the economy to try to bully their own members into going back on their word and wrecking the Senate. Either way, it is exactly the kind of recklessness that has this unified Democratic government's public approval in total freefall. Even now, while the Democratic leader complains that he's short on time, he continues to waste time with partisan stunts that are dead on arrival. He's scheduled yet another vote this afternoon, which he knows will fail. The majority has known for 3 months that show votes like this would go nowhere. This year, Democrats requested and won new powers to repeatedly reuse the reconciliation process. In the past few days, Democrats in both the House and Senate have publicly admitted their party could handle the debt limit that way. Our colleagues have plenty of time to get it done before the earliest projected deadline. There would be potential for time agreements to wrap it up well before any danger. But the Democratic leaders wanted solutions. They wanted to turn their failure into everybody else's crisis, playing risky games with our economy, using manufactured drama to bully their own members, indulging petty politics instead of governing. Their entire failed approach to governing in a nutshell, on full display for the country to see. Now, on a related matter, President Biden makes 2 claims about the reckless taxing and spending spree that Democrats are riding behind closed doors. Listen to this. He's saying it costs $0. But he needs massive tax hikes to pay for it. Talk about magical Washington math. If they embark on a Washington spending binge, as long as they send the bill to the American people and not themselves, they consider the whole thing free of charge. Of course, Democrat plans wouldn't pay for themselves. That's why their reckless spending spree needs to come paired with an historic redistribution of wealth from the American people over to the federal government. With trillions of dollars in new spending comes the largest peacetime tax hike on record. Democrats' reckless taxing and spending spree isn't even fully developed, and it already contains more than 40 different tax increases that would hurt families and help China. Some of the tax hikes take aim at workers and families directly. Others target small businesses, pass-throughs, and family farms with extra burdens. Still others would make it harder to invest, create, and sustain jobs here in America instead of overseas. Ivy League economists say that the Democrats' tax hikes would increase the incentive for American companies to move investments and profits overseas. Under Democrats' proposed expansion of the global minimum tax, more than a dozen of our most developed peers would have tax structures more favorable to U.S. companies than our own. If President Biden got his way on corporate taxes, even China would become more hospitable to job creators by comparison. So let me say that again. Democrats are planning to send America's top tax rate for job creators higher than communist China. Needless to say, the biggest losers when Democrats make it harder to do business in America are, of course, American workers. Based on data from the Joint Committee on Taxation, 2/3 of the burden of the corporate tax hike Democrats are trying to ram through would end up falling on lower and middle income Americans. 98.4% of it would hit Americans with incomes under $500,000. So, Mr. President, it turns out that President Biden's promise that taxes wouldn't go up for the vast majority of American families, wasn't worth all that much. And not only are their taxes set to go up, so is the budget of the IRS. Democrats want to spend $80 billion so that federal tax authorities can expand their reach into financial habits of average Americans, snooping on transactions as small as $600. They want to finance their spending spree by effectively treating every ordinary American as if they were under IRS audit. Every ordinary American as if they were under IRS audit. I must have forgotten when the president campaigned on giving everybody their own audit. I don't remember him saying that last year. It isn't ordinary middle-class Americans who need a careful audit, Mr. President. It's the Democrats' reckless taxing and spending spree with these historic tax hikes that would hurt families and help China.
Clerk, call the roll.
Ms. Baldwin.